Captain Vesra stood on the bridge of her battle station, watching another ship die. The explosion lit up the darkness like a brief, terrible star. That made 23 ships lost in the last hour, 23 crews who would never go home. Her feathers, usually bright blue, had dulled to gray over the past 47 days. That was how long the Zathron swarm had kept them trapped here. 47 days of watching her people die slowly, piece by piece. "Captain, they're moving again," her sensor officer called out. His voice shook. Everyone's voice shook now. On the main screen, the enemy fleet looked like a dark cloud. Hundreds of bioships, all organic and alive, all hungry. The Zathron were insect-like creatures that thought as one mind. They didn't negotiate. They didn't surrender. They consumed everything in their path. Vesra had fought in 3 wars during her career. She had won medals and respect. But this was different. This was a nightmare that wouldn't end. "How many ships do we have left?" she asked, though she already knew. 23, Captain. Most are damaged. Life support is failing on 7 of them." 23 ships. They had started with 200. The Zathron had barely lost 50. A transmission came through. Vesra recognized the voice immediately. It was her old friend, Commander Reltalk, from the Marine water fleets. His people were aquatic, breathing through gills, and his ship was specially designed for his species. "Vesra," he said quietly, "my ship is dying. Hull breach in 3 sections. We can't fix it in time." She closed her eyes. "Get your crew to the escape pods." "The Zathron are jamming our launch systems. We're trapped." Her claws dug into her command chair. "I'll send someone." "No. You need every ship at the defense line. Don't waste resources on us." He paused. "Tell my clutch mates I fought well." The transmission ended. 2 minutes later, his ship's core exploded. Vesra wanted to scream. She wanted to cry, but she was a captain, and her crew needed her to be strong. Another officer approached. Lieutenant Kess, young and too idealistic for this war. "Captain, High Command just sent a message." "What do they say?" Kess hesitated. "They're not sending reinforcements. They recommend we surrender." The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at her. Surrender to the Zathron meant worse than death. It meant being absorbed into their collective, losing all individuality, becoming part of the swarm. It meant watching yourself commit atrocities and being unable to stop. "No," Vesra said firmly. "We don't surrender. But, Captain, we protect the civilians still on the planet. Every hour we hold gives them time to evacuate deeper underground. We hold the line." The crew looked at her with a mixture of respect and despair. They all knew they were going to die here. Kess spoke up again, his voice soft. "There is one option, an old one." "What option?" "The ancient distress beacon, the one that sends signals to the dark zone." Vesra felt her stomach drop. The dark zone. Old human space. 300 years ago, humans had been leaders of the coalition. They were brilliant diplomats and terrifying warriors. They had led the galaxy to victory against the Krathnok Dominion in a war that lasted 50 years. But the war had cost them everything. Their home world, Earth, had been destroyed. Their colonies were burned. Billions of humans died. When the war finally ended, humanity sent one last message to the galaxy. "We're going dark. Don't follow us. Don't call us. We need time to heal." Then they vanished beyond mapped space, taking their advanced technology with them. Nobody had heard from them since. Most species thought humans were extinct now. Others believed they had simply abandoned the galaxy. Either way, the coalition had learned to survive without them. "The beacon won't work," Vesra said. "Even if humans still exist, they made it clear they want nothing to do with us." "Maybe," Kess said. "But what do we have to lose?" Vesera looked at the tactical display. The Zathran were massing for another attack. In a few hours, they would break through. The battle station would fall. The planet would be consumed. "Activate it," she ordered. The crew worked quickly. The old beacon was built into the station's core, a relic from the old days when humanity had been part of the coalition. It used quantum transmission technology that humans had invented, sending signals faster than light itself. "Beacon is active," Kess reported, "broadcasting on all human emergency frequencies." "How long until we get a response?" "If anyone is listening, could be minutes, could be never." Vesera nodded. She hadn't really expected anything else. 6 hours passed. The beacon transmitted continuously into the void. No response came. The Zathran launched their final assault. 400 bioships moved forward as one, blocking out the stars themselves. They fired acid projectiles that ate through shields and armor. They released spore clouds that infected ship systems. "All ships, fall back to the station," Vesera ordered. "Get the civilians into the core. We make our last stand here." Her crew rushed to obey. Parents with children ran through the corridors, heading to the reinforced center of the station. It wouldn't save them forever, but it might buy them a few more hours. Vesera stood at her post, watching death approach. Then her sensor officer shouted, "Captain, something's happening at the system's edge." "What is it?" "I don't know. There's a gravitational anomaly forming near the 9th planet. Space itself is bending." All eyes turned to the sensor displays. Something was out there in the darkness. Something big. Vesera felt a tiny spark of something she hadn't felt in weeks. Not hope, not quite, but maybe the beginning of it. She whispered into the silence, "Forgive us for calling." And in the endless dark beyond the outer planets, something began to take shape. Vesera remembered the first time she heard about humans. She had been a cadet, barely old enough to understand war. Her instructor, an old Kelith veteran with scars across his beak, had told stories about the Great War against the Krathnok. "The humans saved us all," he had said. "When the Krathnok swept through the outer systems, consuming everything, we thought it was the end. Then Terra joined the fight." The instructor's eyes had grown distant. "I saw a human commander once. Admiral Chen, I think his name was. He fought like he was dancing. Every move perfect, every decision right. He destroyed 3 Krathnok dreadnoughts with only 1 carrier group." Young Vesera had asked, "Where are the humans now?" The instructor's expression had turned sad. "Gone. The war cost them too much. They lost their homeworld, lost billions of their people. After we won, they just left." Now, decades later, standing on her dying station, Vesera wondered if those stories had been real or just legends. "Captain, the anomaly is growing," her sensor officer reported, pulling her back to the present. The gravitational distortion at the system's edge was getting stronger. Whatever was causing it, it was massive, but their sensors couldn't identify what it actually was. "Could it be a Zathran weapon?" Lieutenant Kess asked. "No," Vesera said. "This signature doesn't match their biotechnology. This is something else." The Zathran had noticed it too. Part of their fleet was breaking off, 50 bioships redirecting toward the anomaly. The hive mind was curious, or perhaps cautious. Vesera watched the tactical display. The 50 Zathran ships moved into position around the anomaly, weapons ready. They formed a perfect sphere, waiting. Then lights appeared in the darkness. Running lights, ship lights, the kind that vessels used to signal their presence. "What is that?" someone whispered. The lights spread out, defining an enormous shape. A ship was uncloaking, revealing itself piece by piece, but it wasn't just big, it was impossibly massive. "Sensors." "Give me a size estimate," Vesera ordered. The sensor officer's hands shook as he worked. "Captain, it's 14 kilometers long. Mass readings are... I don't even know how that's possible." 14 kilometers. The largest coalition ship ever built was 2 kilometers. This thing was 7 times bigger. Reading hull composition. Wait, this doesn't make sense. Parts of it are metallic, but other sections are showing organic signatures, and there are energy readings I've never seen before. The ship was scarred. Vesera could see that even from this distance. Burns and impacts covered its hull, evidence of old battles. But there was something else. New additions, modifications. This ship had been changed, upgraded, evolved. Can you identify it? I'm trying. The design is old, really old. Searching the database. The officer paused. Oh, ancestors. Captain, it matches human designs from 300 years ago, but modified, heavily modified. A human ship. The beacon had worked, but it was alone. One ship against 400. The Zathron broadcast came through, the collective voice of the hive mind speaking in many languages at once. Ancient ship. Dead species. You are alone. You will be consumed. The 50 Zathron bioships opened fire. Acid projectiles and biomissiles streaked toward the human vessel. The human ship didn't slow down. It didn't try to dodge. It accelerated straight toward them. What is it doing? Kess asked. It's going to... The human ship opened fire. Vesera had studied military history. She knew about human weapons, railguns that used magnetic acceleration to fire projectiles. She had seen videos from the old wars, but this was different. The railgun batteries lit up like stars. Tungsten rods, each one several tons of dense metal, launched at 30% the speed of light. They crossed the distance in seconds. When they hit the Zathron ships, there was no explosion. There was vaporization. The bioships simply ceased to exist, torn apart at the molecular level by the sheer kinetic energy. By the ancestors, Vesera breathed. More Zathron ships tried to close in. The human ship's point defense systems activated. Lasers created a web of light around the vessel, precisely cutting through acid projectiles and spores. Nothing got through. Then something incredible happened. The human ship's hull was damaged in one section, armor peeled back by a lucky Zathron hit. But as they watched, the hull began to heal. Organic material grew across the wound, sealing it. They're using biotechnology, the sensor officer said in shock. Human ships didn't have that before. They've adapted. They've taken Zathron biotech and made it their own. 4 minutes. That's how long it took the human ship to destroy all 50 Zathron vessels. Not a single shot had hit it hard enough to matter. The ship continued moving, heading straight for Kalar Prime, heading for them. A transmission came through, audio only. The voice was human, male, rough with age and experience. Kalar Prime, this is Captain Marcus Chen of the Terran Confederacy Navy, TCNS Indomitable. We heard your beacon. Hold your position. Help is coming. Vesera's legs felt weak. Chen. That name. It couldn't be the same Chen from the old wars, could it? That was 300 years ago. She activated her comm. Captain Chen, this is Captain Vesera commanding Kalar Prime Station. We have 400 enemy vessels. Your ship is alone. I don't think... Captain, Chen interrupted, his voice calm. I've been fighting the Zathron for 270 years. Trust me. Hold the line for 15 more minutes. The transmission ended. Vesera looked at her crew. They were staring at her with wide eyes, hope and disbelief mixed together. You heard him, she said, trying to sound confident. Hold the line. 15 minutes. The human ship, Indomitable, was cutting through space toward them. The Zathron fleet was turning, all 400 ships focusing on this new threat. Vesera knew the math. One ship, even a massive one, couldn't win against those numbers. But she had seen what that ship could do, and she had heard the certainty in Chen's voice. Maybe, just maybe, the old stories were true. Maybe humans were as terrifying and brilliant as the legends said. Maybe they hadn't lost yet. The Zathron swarm rushed forward to meet Indomitable. The battle for Kalar Prime was about to begin in earnest, and somewhere in the dark behind that human ship, space was beginning to bend again. Many times over, something else was coming. The Zathron swarm moved like a living thing, all 400 ships turning as one. They formed attack patterns that had defeated every coalition fleet they faced. Pincer movements, overwhelming fire from multiple angles, acid clouds that dissolved shields and armor. Vesera watched from her station as Indomitable plunged straight into the middle of their formation. It was either the bravest or most foolish thing she had ever seen. "What is he doing?" Lieutenant Kess asked. "That's suicide." But Captain Chen's voice came through again, this time on an open channel that all coalition ships could hear. "All coalition vessels, this is Chen. Listen carefully. I'm going to hit their formation from the center. When I do, their coordination will break for approximately 40 seconds. Use that time to target the ships I mark on your displays." Data packets started arriving on Vesera's tactical screen. Chen was sending them targeting information. Specific Zathran ships, highlighted in red. "These are their node ships," Chen continued. "They coordinate the swarm's movements. Kill these, and the rest will be confused. Can you do that?" Vesera looked at her weapons officer. The Keleth nodded, already programming the targets into their systems. "We can do it," Vesera transmitted back. "All coalition ships, follow the human's lead." Indomitable reached the center of the Zathron formation. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations. The ship spun, actually rotated on its axis while maintaining forward momentum. Its railguns fired in all directions at once, each barrel independently tracking targets. The tungsten rods punched through bioships like they were paper. At the same time, Indomitable launched fighters, small, sleek craft that moved with incredible precision. But these weren't piloted by humans. They moved too perfectly, coordinating in ways no organic being could manage. "Those are AI-controlled," Vesera realized. "Fully autonomous fighters." The Coalition had tried AI pilots once, decades ago. They had been good, but not good enough to replace living pilots. These were different. These moved like a single organism, each fighter knowing exactly where the others were, executing maneuvers that would have killed organic pilots with the G-forces involved. The Zathron tried to swarm Indomitable, overwhelming it with numbers. Bioships crashed into each other trying to get close. Acid projectiles filled the space around the human vessel. But Indomitable's point defense was perfect. Every single shot was intercepted. Lasers fired with computer precision, destroying incoming fire milliseconds before impact. When acid managed to splash across the hull, the organic sections absorbed it, literally eating the acid and using it as fuel. "They've turned the Zathron's own weapons into an advantage," the sensor officer said in awe. Chen's voice came again, calm despite the chaos. "Now, Captain Vesera, hit those node ships. All weapons, fire." The Coalition fleet, battered and desperate, poured everything they had into the marked targets. The Zathron node ships tried to evade, but they were built for coordination, not agility. One by one, they exploded. And just as Chen had predicted, the swarm's coordination broke. Zathron ships collided with each other. Their attack patterns fell apart. For 40 precious seconds, they were vulnerable. Indomitable didn't waste the opportunity. Its main batteries fired again, each shot precisely placed. Not random firing, but surgical strikes. Chen was targeting specific ships, breaking the Zathron's ability to reform their swarm tactics. But the numbers were still against them. For every ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. And Indomitable was taking damage now. Real damage. Hull breaches appeared, venting atmosphere. Armor plates were scorched and torn. The Zathron Overmind, the collective intelligence controlling the swarm, broadcast again. This time there was something new in its voice. Satisfaction. "One old ship. Alone and dying. Where are your fleets, human?" Where is your vaunted terror? You came alone to die, noble but futile. The coalition crews felt their brief hope crumble. The Overmind was right. Indomitable had fought brilliantly, but it was just one ship. Already it was bleeding, weakening. In minutes it would fall, and then the Zathron would finish what they started. Vesra opened a channel to Chen. "Captain, you need to retreat. You've done enough. Get out while you can." Chen's response was a laugh. Not mocking, but genuine amusement. "Retreat? Captain Vesra, you misunderstand the situation." "What? I'm not here to retreat. I'm not even here to win. I'm here to deliver a message." "What message?" Chen's voice changed. It became cold, hard, carrying the weight of 3 centuries of loss and rage. He broadcast on all frequencies, making sure every ship in the system heard him, including the Zathron. "Overmind, you asked where Terra is. You asked where our fleets are. You think I'm alone?" He paused. "I'm not the fleet. I'm not the cavalry. I'm not the rescue force." Another pause, and Vesera could hear the smile in his voice. "I'm the warning." Behind Indomitable, space began to tear open. Not one anomaly, not 2, hundreds of them. Gravitational distortions appeared across the system's edge, each one pulling at reality itself. Ships were coming through, emerging from whatever hidden places humanity had retreated to 300 years ago. First came the destroyers, sleek and deadly, then the cruisers, bristling with weapons, then the battleships, massive and imposing, and finally, the carriers, each one launching wings of AI fighters. 300 ships appeared in the span of 60 seconds. Each one bore the name of a destroyed human world. Each one carried the memory of everything the Zathron's predecessors had taken from humanity. At the center of the fleet, a dreadnought even larger than Indomitable took position. Its hull was pristine, unlike Chen's battle-scarred vessel. This ship had been kept in reserve, maintained and upgraded, waiting for the moment it would be needed. A new voice transmitted across all channels, female carrying authority that made even Vesera straighten unconsciously. "Zathron Overmind, this is Fleet Admiral Sarah Okonkwo of the Terran Confederacy Navy. You are currently in violation of the Kalar system's sovereignty. You have attacked coalition civilians. You have threatened species under our protection." The Admiral's voice hardened. "You have one opportunity to withdraw. Leave this system immediately, and we will allow you to retreat. Refuse, and we will demonstrate why humanity has spent 300 years preparing." The Zathron's response was predictable. The swarm had never retreated in its entire history. They broadcast their defiance and charged. It was the last mistake the Overmind would ever make. The human fleet opened fire as one, and Vesra watched the definition of overwhelming force rewrite itself before her eyes. The battle lasted 1 hour and 17 minutes. Vesera would remember every second of it for the rest of her life. The human fleet didn't fight like the coalition. Coalition tactics were about defense, about holding positions and wearing down enemies. Human tactics were aggressive, relentless, and terrifyingly efficient. They moved in perfect coordination. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship was. Their firing patterns overlapped, creating fields of destruction that nothing could pass through. When Zathron bioships tried to swarm individual vessels, the humans simply adjusted, flowing around threats like water. "They're not fighting as individual ships," Vesra's tactical officer observed. "They're fighting as one organism, like the Zathran, but better." It was true. The human fleet moved with the precision of a hive mind, but retained the creativity and adaptability of individuals. It was the best of both approaches. Chen's voice came through again, still calm, now giving tactical advice to coalition forces. "Captain Vesera, form your ships into defensive position Beta 7 around the station. We'll push the swarm toward you. When they enter your firing range, hit them with everything. Don't worry about conserving ammunition. We'll resupply you. Understood, Vesera replied, ordering her ships into position. The human fleet executed a maneuver that seemed impossible. Half the fleet accelerated forward, drawing the Zathron's attention. The other half looped around, using the system's fourth planet for a gravity slingshot. They emerged behind the Zathron formation, catching them in a deadly crossfire. The Zathron tried to adapt, splitting their swarm to face both threats. But the humans had planned for that. As soon as the swarm divided, the human fleet concentrated fire on one half, overwhelming it with sheer firepower. Within minutes, half the Zathron force was destroyed. Vesera watched a human battleship take on 20 Zathron ships at once. Its shields flared under the assault, but they held. Its return fire was methodical, each shot placed to cause maximum damage. It didn't waste a single round. "How are they so good?" Lieutenant Kess asked, his voice full of wonder. Vesera understood now. "They've been fighting. For 300 years they've been fighting. Somewhere out in the dark, they've been at war, learning, adapting, perfecting their craft." Captain Chen confirmed it. "Lieutenant, humanity has spent the last 3 centuries dealing with threats in deep space. Threats you've never heard of. The Zathron are dangerous, yes, but we've faced worse." The Zathron overmind, for the first time in the battle, showed something that might have been fear. Its broadcast was no longer confident. "Impossible. You are one species. We are the swarm. We are inevitable. We have consumed 1,000 worlds." Admiral Okonkwo's response was ice cold. "And we are the species that lost our homeworld and survived. We are the species that was broken and rebuilt ourselves stronger. You consume worlds? We avenge them." The human fleet pressed the attack. Their AI fighters were everywhere, too fast for the Zathron to target effectively. They struck at vulnerable points, engines and weapons systems, crippling bioships without destroying them. "They're being precise," the sensor officer noted. "They could just obliterate everything, but they're taking time to disable ships." Vesera realized what they were doing. "They're studying them, learning Zathron weaknesses in real time and sharing that data across the fleet." Every human ship was learning from every engagement, and that knowledge was instantly distributed. The fleet was getting better at fighting Zathron even as the battle continued. The Zathron tried one final desperate move. They gathered their remaining 200 ships into a tight formation and charged directly at Admiral Okonkwo's flagship. It was a suicide run, hoping to take the Admiral with them. The human response was devastating. Chen's Indomitable, despite its damage, moved to intercept. "Admiral, permission to engage." "Granted, Captain. Show them what old warriors can do." Indomitable, scarred and bleeding, accelerated into the Zathron charge. Its railguns fired continuously, never stopping, each shot perfectly placed. The ship's bio-hull was regenerating even as it fought, wounds closing in real time. Behind it, the rest of the human fleet converged. They created a wall of fire that nothing could penetrate. The Zathron formation broke. Ships tried to scatter, tried to escape, but there was nowhere to go. Human ships were everywhere, cutting off every retreat. The Zathron overmind broadcast one final message. It was different from before. There was no confidence, no arrogance, just confusion and something that might have been respect. "How? How did you become this?" Chen answered, and his voice carried the weight of loss and determination. "You want to know how? We lost everything. Our home, our people, our future. We went into the dark and we asked ourselves one question. Will we let this happen again?" He paused. The answer was no. Never again. We rebuilt ourselves. We made ourselves strong enough that no one could ever take our home again. We found threats in the deep dark, and we fought them. We learned from every battle, every loss, every victory. We spent 300 years becoming what we needed to be. And what is that? The Overmind asked. Guardians, protectors, the shield that stands between innocents and those who would harm them. The last Zathran ships were destroyed or disabled. The swarm that had terrorized Coalition space for months was broken in just over an hour. But the humans didn't celebrate. They immediately began rescue operations, pulling Coalition survivors from damaged ships, providing medical aid, distributing supplies. Admiral Okonkwo broadcast to the entire system. All Coalition vessels, this is Terra. The immediate threat has passed. Medical ships are standing by. We'll help evacuate civilians from the planet and repair your damaged vessels. She paused. You called, and we answered. That's what allies do. Vesra felt tears running down her face. They had survived. Against all odds, they had survived. A transmission came directly to her, Chen's voice, tired now that the battle was over. Captain Vesra, permission to come aboard your station. We should talk. Permission granted, Captain Chen, and thank you. Thank us by surviving the next 300 years, Chen replied. The galaxy needs good people like you. The human fleet took up defensive positions around Kalar Prime, not occupying, protecting. And Vesera knew that the galaxy had just changed forever. Humanity had returned. Captain Chen arrived on Kalar Prime Station 12 hours after the battle ended. Vesera waited for him at the docking bay with her senior officers. She wasn't sure what to expect. The legends described humans as similar to her own people in some ways, but it had been 300 years. They could have changed completely. The airlock opened, and Chen stepped through. He was tall, like the old records described. But that was where the similarity to ancient images ended. Half his face was covered in cybernetic implants. Silver metal seamlessly integrated with flesh. One eye was organic, brown and warm. The other glowed with a soft blue light. His right arm was fully mechanical from the shoulder down, but it moved with organic fluidity. He walked with a slight limp, and Vesra could see more scars, both organic and mechanical, covering every visible part of him. This was a man who had been broken and rebuilt many times. But when he smiled, it was genuine. Captain Vesra, it's an honor to meet you. You held that line with 23 ships against impossible odds. That takes courage. Vesra gestured to her crew. We did what we had to. But you, Captain Chen, the records say there was an Admiral Chen in the old wars, 300 years ago. Chen's smile turned sad. That was my great-great-grandfather. I was named after him. The name Chen has served in the Terran Navy for 15 generations now. 15 generations of war? Of preparation, Chen corrected gently. Come, let me explain what humanity has become. They walked to a conference room. Chen moved carefully, favoring his left leg. Battle damage from the fight, Vesra realized. Even now, he was still healing. Once seated, Chen began. When we left Coalition space 300 years ago, we were broken. Earth was destroyed. Our colonies were burned. We had won the war against the Krathnok. But the cost was almost everything we had. He touched his cybernetic eye unconsciously. We decided we would never be that vulnerable again. So we went into deep space beyond map territory, and we rebuilt. Not just our ships and weapons, ourselves. The cybernetics? Lieutenant Kess asked. Part of it. We integrated biotechnology from species we encountered. We developed AI that could work with us, not replace us. We extended our lifespans, enhanced our bodies, connected our minds through quantum networks. Chen looked at his mechanical arm. I'm 247 years old. I've spent most of that time in war. Vesera felt her stomach drop. 247? But that means I've been fighting since before you were born, yes. Most of our fleet commanders have similar experience. We don't just train for war anymore. We live it, learn it, breathe it. Fighting who? Vesra asked. What's out there in the dark? Chen's expression grew grim. Things that make the Zathran look tame. The Void Collective, a race of energy beings that feed on stars. The Silicon Hives, machine intelligences that convert entire solar systems into processing power. The Endless Hunger, a biological plague that spreads between dimensions. He leaned forward. We've been fighting these threats for 3 centuries, keeping them away from civilized space. From you. The Zathran are aggressive, yes, but they're containable. The things we fight are apocalyptic. Why didn't you tell us? Vesra asked. Why hide this from the Coalition? Because you weren't ready. You're still not really, but you're learning. Chen's organic eye studied her. You activated that beacon knowing we probably wouldn't come. You chose to fight impossible odds rather than surrender. That's the spirit we need from our allies. A hologram appeared above the table, showing Admiral Okonkwo. She nodded to Vesera. Captain, I'm Sarah Okonkwo. I wanted to join this conversation. Admiral, Vesera said respectfully. What happens now? Now we talk, Okonkwo said. Humanity is returning to the galactic community, not as conquerors but as partners. We'll share our technology, our knowledge, our protection. In exchange for what? Lieutenant Kess asked suspiciously. Okonkwo smiled. In exchange for standing together. The threats Chen described are real, and they're getting closer to Coalition space. In another century, maybe less, they'll arrive. When they do, we need to be ready. All of us. There are conditions, Chen added. Humanity will operate independently. We won't answer to Coalition High Command. We've learned hard lessons about bureaucracy and politics getting in the way of survival. We'll coordinate with you, share intelligence, fight beside you. But we make our own strategic decisions. That seems reasonable, Vesera said slowly. What about technology sharing? Okonkwo nodded. We'll provide defensive technology first. Better shields, advanced medical treatments, improved FTL drives. Weapons technology will come later, once we're sure it won't be misused. We remember what happened with the Krathnok. We gave them jump drive technology, and they used it to wage war. We won't make that mistake again, Chen said firmly. We'll help you become strong enough to defend yourselves. But we'll be watching. The conversation continued for hours. They discussed trade agreements, technology transfers, military coordination. Through it all, Vesera watched Chen carefully. He was patient, thoughtful, and clearly experienced in negotiation. But underneath it all, she sensed sadness. Finally, she asked him directly. Captain Chen, are you happy? Has all this preparation, all this fighting been worth it? Chen was quiet for a long moment. I don't know if happiness is something soldiers like me get to have anymore. But purpose? Yes, I have that. Knowing that Earth's children are out there, living free, exploring the stars, that's worth every scar, every battle, every loss. He looked at her with his mismatched eyes. We became what we needed to be. Not what we wanted to be, maybe, but what the galaxy needed us to be. 3 days later, Vesera stood on the observation deck, watching the human fleet maintain position around Kalar Prime. They hadn't left. Chen had said they would stay until Coalition reinforcements arrived and the system was fully secure. Below, on the planet's surface, human medical teams were helping treat injured civilians. Human engineers were repairing damaged infrastructure. They worked efficiently, professionally, asking for nothing in return. Lieutenant Kess joined her. What do you think of them? I think they're different from the humans in the old records, Vesera said. Harder, more dangerous, but also more committed, Kess finished. They really mean it, about protecting others. Yes. Vesera watched a human medical ship dock with the station. They lost everything and it changed them, made them stronger but also more determined to prevent others from suffering the same loss. She pulled up a holographic display showing the outer edges of known space, the dark zone where humans had spent 3 centuries. I wonder what else is out there. What other threats are coming? Whatever they are, Kess said. At least now we won't face them alone. A transmission came through. Chen's voice, warm despite everything. Captain Vesera, we're detecting movement in deep space. Zathran reinforcements attempting to regroup. We're going after them. We'll be back in a few days. Understood, Captain. Good hunting. One more thing, Chen added. High Command is sending representatives to meet with the Coalition Council. They'll discuss formal alliance terms. I think you should be there. You understand what's at stake better than most. Vesera felt honored. I'll be there. Good. Terra out. The human fleet began to move, organizing into formation. They slipped into faster-than-light travel, vanishing like ghosts. Vesera recorded a personal log entry. Today marks the beginning of a new era. Humanity has returned, but they're not the same species that left. They're warriors now, guardians, shaped by 3 centuries of darkness and conflict. They're stronger, stranger, and perhaps a bit frightening. But when we called from the depths of despair, they answered. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. They came out of the endless dark, and they saved us. Not because they had to, because it was right. Because they remember what it's like to lose everything. I believe we can trust them. I believe we must trust them. The galaxy is more dangerous than we knew, and we'll need their strength in the days ahead. She looked out at the stars. Whatever comes next, at least we won't face it alone. Far away, in unmapped space, a Zathran hive received a transmission, a human voice, cold and precise. You touched what we protect. You threatened innocence under our watch. This is your only warning. Leave this region of space, or we will come for you. Not with one fleet, not with one battle. We will hunt every ship, every colony, every trace of your swarm until nothing remains. The transmission ended with 5 simple words. Terra remembers, Terra protects, Terra endures. The message was received. The swarm began to retreat, and in Coalition space, a new chapter of galactic history began.